Hello, it's Bonnie, and today we're going to be working on this project. It is a rainy day, and so I'm going to be having to use my lights, and I'm hoping you can see what I'm working on today. Anyway, so today we're going to be working on this, like I said, and it is going to be a couple different techniques. We're going to be doing some heat embossing, some second generation stamping, and well, let's just get going. I'm going to show you what we're going to be using. So the sentiment that we're going to be using is Deepest Wishes from Fairy Hugs and Dogwood Blossoms from Fairy Hugs. So really just two stamps, and then we're also going to be using the Fairy Hugs paper. And I didn't get the name out, but I will get the name out and let you know as we go through the video. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to need to do, because we are going to do second generation stamping and we're going to be stamping on top of another image, is I went ahead and I made a mask. So all you do is you just stamp it and then you cut it out. For this particular card, when I was doing it, I did not make a mask because I embossed this top part of the stamp, and usually embossing allows you, it's kind of like a mask in a way, except for in this case, if you look in between each of these lines, there is no embossing, and so then the image from behind can show through. I didn't think it was a big deal, but I wanted to show you that there is an option to doing a mask or not a mask. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out my stamping platform and we'll get started. Okay, so the name of the paper is Woody, and if you actually wanted to make your own paper, this paper is made from a stencil from Fairy Hugs that is called Woody. So you could also make your own paper background yourself. So anyway, on this particular paper, if you notice at the bottom, there is a little bit of like a hill or whatever you want to call it, a place where you can set the first stamp, your flower, right on that little hill at the bottom. So getting that all lined up, and this first one I want it to be a little bit darker because the background I want it to be lighter so that I can actually color on it with a pencil and for it to also look like it is in the background. So for the first one, I'm going to be using Nocturne. And I'm doing this horizontally on my platform because I'm going to be adding the stamps to the side off the paper. But I keep having to turn it sideways so I can stamp it. This is a gorgeous stamp. And as I said, it's really, you can do just this stamp and make a beautiful card. All right, like I said, I apologize for the light above, but today's a rainy day, so I'm going to be having a lot of glare from my lights. Okay, I can see some of my, there we go. So that's perfect. That's exactly what I want to start. So then the next thing you're going to do, because this is wet, you are going to be embossing. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get that going right this minute while we're filming. Is what I did for this particular card is I wanted to show you how you can combine embossing powder, which you probably know that anyway, but you can combine a glitter one and the new, it's not so new anymore, the Tim Holtz glazes. This is a clear glaze, but it has the color. For instance, if you are going to be putting that directly onto molding paste, it would look like ceramic, which is really cool, and I will share that process again with you in one of my videos. But for this case, I wanted to have glitter, so I'm using a turquoise It's called Turquoise. It is a sparkle glitter, and it's again from Ranger. Both of these are from Ranger. And all I did is I used a container. This is not Nuvo. It is a Nuvo container to create a combination of the two. So inside of there, I have a mixture of the glitter turquoise, and this one is the vintage patina. Now what I did was, it was like 2 to 1. So I basically used 2 spoons of the embossing glaze to 1 spoon of glitter. So we're going to go ahead, and what I'm doing is I am being very fussy about where this is going. I am not embossing the leaves at all, and I'm not embossing the center of the flower. So in order to do that, you have to kind of like, and this one's going to be a little slow, there we go. You have to just slightly tap, 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 and just get it on the most parts of where you want. You do not want to get the center. Now if I put it on this side and I tip it, it's going to get on the center. So I am just doing one side at a time and then tipping that off. Now the good thing is I use Nocturne ink, and it will stay a little wet, so I'm not having to be in a big hurry. So I'm just going to do those 2 petals first. I'm going to go ahead and dump that out. Now again, make sure, got that folded, make sure that you tip it away from the rest, and you've got that on there. Okay, now you can go to the other side. It is a fussy bit to do, but it's really kind of pretty when it gets done. Like I said, take your time. Make sure you have enough of the embossing powder in your container too, because that makes a difference. You have to keep refilling otherwise. I'm gonna be a little careful right here. That's going to be the hardest part, is that little bit right underneath. Okay. All right, so we just got those bits, and then you're going to heat emboss that, and then come back and we'll finish stamping. Okay, so I've got that all embossed, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the background stamping. And in order to do that, like I said, this time I'm going to be using the mask. So I used a little bit of tape, just regular Tombow tape, and I am placing that down. Now I know people can get masking paper, and you can use it also that way. This is just what I'm using because this is what I have. And I'm getting that to be placed. And then I'm taking my acetate, so I know where I want to put this. That's usually what I do, is I audition whatever stamp I'm going to be using. I do put this so it doesn't get all over my mat underneath. And I'm just going to be putting this on like that. Now, when I did my first one, the one that I showed you originally, I used a different ink, not the Nocturne, because I wasn't doing a second generation stamping at that time, because my Morning Mist, which is what I'm going to be using, was dry. So I didn't have to be concerned with a second generation stamping. So today, because I have refilled it, I do have to be concerned. So here's a hint. If you want to do second generation stamping and not to have to do a lot of stamping first, use a drier ink pad, I guess, because it worked really great for this card. But it's darker now, so I'm going to probably have to do a second generation stamping. So I've got a piece of paper, and I'm just going to stamp on this first, and then I'm going to stamp down. We're going to see how dark it is, because when I made my mask, this is the color, and that is not what the color was on this. It was much lighter. So I'm concerned about that. So I am going to do a second generation stamping. It's kind of a test. So I'm going to do that first just to make sure I have the right shade. Yeah, that's going to be, it was going to be darker than what I wanted it to be, but I'm still going to have to add more ink. We'll see what we can do. We might have a little bit darker background. Let me see. I'm still concerned. I'm testing it. All right, let's try it. Can always add more ink. I do want to get a decent impression. I don't want it to be really faded in bits, like I know sometimes you can do with second generation. My mask is coming off. Yeah, I need more anyways. We'll leave the mask right on. And we'll press harder where the mask is. Yeah, see, this is what I'm not overly excited about, is getting that right there. So I'm going to take my mask off because I really want that bit of ink close to it so it looks like it's by it. Much better. Like I said, embossing really does give a nice mask, and I just like that so much better. So we're going to go that route all the way around, just like I did originally. I wondered if the mask would make a difference. Yeah. Okay, so let me get set up on this other side now. It's good to experiment even on, you know, in a YouTube video, so you can see how it does work. And I might need my washi tape a little bit stronger. It loses its stickiness after a while, and I do need this paper to stay in place, which is the whole point of having a platform. I know a lot of people push theirs down into the corner, but these mats that you get from Hero Arts are flush, and there's no way to keep that down that I know of. I might need to watch a better video just to know how to put that on. Okay, so I know I'm coming over this way, and I don't want to get it all over that bottom mat, but I also need to keep it secured. Okay, so let's get set up again. And looking at my original, I have one here and one at the top. I think I'm going to go ahead and do the one at the bottom because that's where I'm set up. And I think, there we go. You can do this whatever way you want, whatever you think is pleasing to you, arranging it. But again, this plastic that comes, or acetate that comes with the stamp, really helps you to see how to set up your stamps, especially when you're doing it like this. All right, let's go ahead and get our our morning mist. And I am only going to be stamping in that direction, in that area. I don't need to ink up the entire stamp. All right, let's see how that goes now. Now I know this right here is not embossed, and I know that this is going to be going over the top of it. But using also a lighter ink really does help, and that works. You can still see the two. So I'm going to be going to the top, changing this around, because I have one more image I want to stamp on. I need to move my tape, get that a little closer. And again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look, and you can see how that is set up on there. Okay? And you can, it doesn't have to say straight as what the stamp is. You can turn that, and because flowers are, they move. They don't are all straight and stick like straight like a stick rather. So you can move that around. And I think we're going to go just like that. It is like flower arranging, but on paper. All right, I want to make sure I'm not too far over the edge up at the top. I have to bring everything down if I am. Has to be able to close. It'll close. All right, and we'll get that. So this also helps with a second generation type of a stamp otherwise, but if you use a lighter ink too, that also helps. I got one section there that didn't want to stamp. There we go. Oh, and one down here. I'm going to move this a little bit out of the way. Sometimes I find that this bar actually keeps it from stamping where I want it to stamp. There we go. So now we have everything we want stamped on. They are a little bit darker than my original, but they will work fine. So then what I do is I let that dry just a little bit, and I come back in with some colored pencils. And I color these in. But before we do that, I forgot. We are going to go ahead and put the sentiment on. Now, again, I'm going to be using gold embossing powder, and I do not want it to get on the flowers at all. So I'm going to have to be very careful when I go to put the embossing powder on. So let's go ahead and get that done. I'm going to make sure this looks straight. I go both ways sometimes to make sure it's lined up. And then I also look at the grid. And I gotta get this back off. Here we go. And my next stamp on. The glare from this is really not helping me at all. Okay. And for this one, I am using the Nocturne. It doesn't really matter. I could use either or because the gold is going on top of it. Okay, so we're all good. I'm going to go ahead and put the gold embossing powder on that. Okay, so I noticed that probably because of the glare, I did not see that I had a little bit of ink on either on my lid or on my fingers. I'm not really sure, but somehow I got a little bit of smudge, and you know that happens on occasion. What do? You know, I've done the entire card. I'm not going to throw this away. I am going to add to it. And one of the things you can add to is you could always use this one's called Fairy Hugs, and it's called Flutter Dust. And it's got, let me see if you can see that. It's got a little bit of a butterfly and dragon flies and a little bit of stars. And I am going to go ahead and put that, I'm not just going to put that, I'm going to have to do it more than just one time once that happens. And then I'm going to heat emboss it also. Hoping that underneath is dry enough so that I don't also emboss the blob. So I am just going to be using Nocturne, and I'm going to be stamping that. This is something I had not planned on doing in the video, but it also shows you how you can fix some things and make it more deliberate. And that's kind of pretty. So then I'm going to kind of audition that around how that could work together to make it look intentional. That one's backwards. It's almost like putting splatters on your card too. You could even do that, quite frankly, and people would not see it. If you splattered like a light gray or something, or even the white, it would cover it up. I think I missed some of that ink. All right. Should have used my acetate and I did not. Even the light part of it, second generation, looks really nice. And then I'm going to carefully come in there and add a little bit of the embossing. I was going to do gold, but I think I'm going to do the, whoops, see, I almost missed that again, and I would have had another mess to pick up. Okay, there. I think I'm going to use the glitter. And again, I'm going to have to be very careful and just put it on those spots so that it doesn't get on, because this would still take the glitter or the embossing powder, because it's still probably wet enough. So I'm going to go ahead and get those embossed and be right back. Okay, so for the next part of the video, wish I could get this to straighten a little bit. As you can see on this card, I used Prismacolor pencils and I colored in each of these flowers, and I also colored in the stem. I also added some gel pen to the center of this flower, but I did not to these because again I wanted them to be more in the background. So first things first is I'm going to go ahead and color up the stem, and what I am using is apple green. And I am just, like I said, literally just coloring, totally coloring over this in this apple green. And I think I also, yeah, I added a little bit of another color too, and I'll show you that in a minute. It is not hard to color this in, it's just staying within the lines. If you want to stay in the lines, you don't have to. And also having a sharp pencil if you want to stay in the lines and be more detailed. Okay, that's how easy that was to get that colored in. And then the green for the leaves that I used in the background, I used a little bit different shade, and that is lime peel. And again, I'm just coloring those in quickly. And I'm not, I'm coloring the whole thing, including the white part, what would be white if it was stamped on white paper, or just those highlights would be white. I'm coloring those in as well. Very simple. And it gives you a little bit, because this color is a little bit different and lighter, it looks like it's in the background. It's very simple coloring. This one's a little bit darker, but it still works. Okay, so we've got all the green color, and then the next color that I used to color the flowers in the background is muted turquoise. And again, all I do is I come in, and for this one, I did leave the highlights of as much as I could of the white. I did not color this in solid. Again, you could. There's no reason why you can't. I just didn't. So that would take you a little bit more time, and your pencil needs to be sharp. Now this will take a little bit longer to color than the green. There must be something that, oh, I know what's going on, and I forgot to tell you this. When I stamped on top of the embossing, the, how do I say this to you? The ink stays on top. And you need to get that off, or it will be on your hands and it will smear onto your card, because there's nothing for that ink to cling to when it has been heat embossed. And I forgot to tell you that, but you can see how much ink will come off on top of that, because it is, like I said, like a mask. So we have a couple places we need to do that. Because see, it was getting on my fingers a little bit too, and that makes me, I would be spreading it. So there we go. And it won't be here because there was no embossing. So it's only where the embossing was that you stamped on top of that you need to rub that back, or it will, it could smear and get over your card. All right, let's continue on. Might have to sharpen that already. So I am just going to go ahead and do one flower, because I think you understand what I'm doing. It's just basically you're going to come back in and color on top of what you stamped. And the lighter the stamp ink is, the more you'll see the color. In this case, sometimes if the black ink is really, depends on your pencil, if it's a light pencil, or it will show up. But in this case, I wanted it to be this way, so it worked to have it a lighter color. Oh, let me just show you. See how it's lighter down here? This is going to show up a little bit more than the one up at the top because it's darker. Now, if I would have used a lighter color up here, there's a good chance it would have showed up, but not in the same color, because the pencils will make a difference. I don't know how to say it. The more you use the pencils, you understand what will show up better. It's like coloring on black construction paper or any black paper. Depends on what pencils you use. Sometimes pencils are made for black to show up. That's the way that you think of your coloring when you're coloring on top of a black stamped image. So anyway, you can see the difference between the two now, what I'm talking about. So it just makes this one look closer, this one further away, so it gives us more dimension anyway. There's nothing really wrong with either one. So the other thing I did was I wanted these to be colored in a lighter color than the gel pen. I'm not putting the gel pen on yet because my hands will get into it, I know it. So I am using sand. And this sand color I'm coloring in completely over the white and everything, because it will give me the color hue of the gel pen. Same down here. And then there's one spot over here. And like I said, I will color in all of the leaves of the flower. Petals, not leaves. The other thing I did was, if for some reason you find that you don't like the fact that this, you can really kind of see this when it's been stamped on top and you kind of lose the definition, you can get a pencil out that is the color of your background, and you can go back in here. Here, let me see if I can get this without all that. It's so hard today with that shine. Okay, I think I'm just gonna have to do it and then move this. I am so sorry for that. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that at all today, but I will hold it up closer to the camera after I color that in so you can see the difference. But again, this is not embossed, so I can come back in with a pencil and I can color that in and make it highlight again, even though I stamped over it with that ink. So that is what I did with the first one too. I just went over those spots there so that it shows up again with a pencil. That is basically the same color as the background. And then it works. You can still kind of see the shadow, but you can see what I'm saying even on this one. That's what I did. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the gel pen. And the gel pen I'm using is a Sparkle Pop, and it's from Pentel. And it does definitely have sparkle in it. So I'm just going to go and dot inside of all of these circles. And you can see that gives it more of the glimmer that goes with the flower. Yep, you can see that there. And you see it does really match, even though that's not the same up here. That's the pencil, and that is that's the marker. So that's basically how to construct this and how you can fix things if you make mistakes. But for real, this is it's so hard to show things that have glitter and shine to them, but this really has a nice, the picture I think might work better. I'm not sure. When I take a photo, we'll have to see. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on a card base. I enjoyed that you were able to stop by today. I hope that you learned something new, or maybe a better way to do it. I'm just giving you a little bit of an idea. And those are the two cards. And again, thanks for stopping by, and I'll have the products that I use down below in the description. Thank you.